Hello and welcome to CodeRage 7, totally technical conference. My name is Vsevolod Leonov. I am a developer evangelist in Embarcadero. You can call me just Seva. Today we'll discuss the migration from client-server to multi-tier using C++ Builder. Of course, I prefer using the latest version, XE3. Today we'll speak about C++ and later great guys will present you product address for C++ Builder and fundamental language improvements. While I am as an applied programmer will dwell upon some process how to improve the architecture of your client-server application. This is the second part of online event branded as CodeRage 7. The previous part was all about Delphi and I had a similar session on DataSnap. But I'm not going to repeat the session regarding C++, but go further and discuss some components, frameworks and of course the code. If you want some early discussion on DataSnap, please replay my session, but I recommend you to visit full page of CodeRage 7 sessions and replays to find more presentations on RAD tools in general and DataSnap in particular. During this session I discussed why client-server is not the ideal technology to be based on, why the problems with the client-server are inevitable, why and what for should we go to multi-tier instead of continue to use client-server. Then we compared the thick client versus thin client and discussed the advantages of the multi-tier approach. We saw how useful it is to migrate to multi-tier from the viewpoint of cooperation in a developer team, splitting responsibilities in binaries, or how useful it is to split the tasks in source code, or for the sake of good testing, or from the viewpoint of migration from single OS VCL code to multi-platform systems with FireMonkey. Then we discussed how cool and what for should we use mobile connectors, and discussed a real-life example when some company migrated from client-server systems to multi-tier to combine and join ERP and CRM projects. Sometimes a good architecture of a system gives profit on the level of interoperability, so please consider the reasons to migrate to DataSnap not inside a single project, but taking into account the emerging problems of monolith system in the nearest future. Going back to C++ and platforms in Embarcadero RAD tools, I'd like to note that Delphi 2010 had some more multi-tier features in comparison with C++ Builder 2010. But as far as I test, DataSnap now works fine both in Delphi and in C++ Builder. Today I specially invited Delphi guys to tell more about DataSnap, so I should clarify my attitude to these two technologies. 15 years ago I started as IT trainer at Moscow-bound University, teaching C++, Pascal, Delphi, SQL, etc. So I have heard a lot, I have spoken a lot, and truly speaking, I can't support any of two groups. C++ is cooler, no man. Delphi is simpler. C++ has more fans. Delphi compiler works faster. C++ can understand C code. Delphi has easier syntax. I can program with C++ everything. Man, I can program with Delphi everything I need. Of course, it's a joke. However, somebody still thinks like this. Today we'd better say Delphi and C++ Builder instead of versus or against. Let me please illustrate. In my days of being a developer in the university team, we used Borland C++ 4 and then 5. And we started Delphi 1 and decided to split our system, which was some intellectual CAD. The user interface was easily made with the Delphi, while we kept the core in C++. The communication was via COM and OLE automation. Today we can use OS-independent DataSnap and its transport. Thus, we can do Delphi and C++ builder, not OR, clients for Windows and Mac OS, easily and transparently communicating with application servers. COM dependence in DataSnap left out since Delphi 2009, and you can just use DataSnap multi-platform transport, not even keeping in mind new architecture. It's just one more mechanism for intercommunication between platforms and C++ and Delphi applications. The last joke before digging the code. Where's Delphi and where's C++? Who is heavy, powerful, has a lot of additional devices, can drive anywhere but bulky, and who is smart, safe and very fast? And in our world of development tools, we can take them both and use what we need in particular project. Why should we select when we can have them all? However, personally, to me, memory management and pointer arithmetics seems a little more elegant in C++, while for pure database projects, I usually take Delphi. But most modern CAD systems import and export C code. Oops, stop it. Not going to start another holy war. Get down to DataSnap. The best start is labs by Pavel Glovatsky, my friend and Delphi lead. You can easily find and do them. Once I translated them into Russian, I was asked to translate them into C++ builder as well. People were complaining, we are C++ guys, we are abandoned, and Delphi motherless. I simply took the first lab on server methods and recoded it into C++ builder easily. So please think of DataSnap as multi-platform, multi-tier, multi-language framework. Of course, to use the power of modern DataSnap, we need C++ builder of the latest generation. Migration needs jump over Unicode. I've got a small obstacle when dragging codes from C++ builder 6 to XE and XE3. The main point appeared when I got Unicode and tried to use this advantage. Tomohiro Takahashi, my colleague and Embarcadero expert, advised me not to forget capital L, but the traditional code feels rather fine. The other Unicode problems are classical and well discussed since Delphi 2009. So we migrate. There are a lot of technological reasons. The main are presented, but generally we can surmise them as more degrees of freedom. The problems of migration are general. We migrate from VCL to FireMonkey to reach multi-platform support. We can do this from scratch. We can use converters. Somebody tries to use FireMonkey forms in VCL project, which is not recommended. Regarding DataSnap, we can start the project from level 0, having studied DataSnap labs. The problem of migration from client-server to multi-tier generally calls for some changes of code style and the use of components. So now we'll consider the process of shifting our mind from traditional to advanced project architecture. Oh, once again, this is also a good start for DataSnap, where you'll be instructed how to use the same code base for different application servers from the viewpoint of deployment. We'll take a traditional or averaged project, the main form exposing the record set to a user by means of select query, update insert form to modify the table in the database, and a data module to keep connection, and use dataset component for select and stored procedure for update. So we're gonna take this thick client, cut it into two pieces, change some code, trying to minimize our work, and then we'll get multi-tier result. Okay, let's look at the project. It's a typical project, some made from scratch, project file, CVP, form description, header file, and for Delphi guys, I should say that interface section of our typical unit is located in H file, and implementation section of our solid path file is now in CPP file. Aside from the main form, the project has an additional form. This form is used to edit or insert some record in our table 1. Data module is also typical. We have a connection to keep connection with the database, some data set components with the some select SQL text, and stored procedure which runs the corresponding object on the server and the list of parameters. Main form implements just button update, and the following trivial code describes the logic for update the current record. We take the data from the current record and load the data to the additional form and show the form to the user, where the user can edit the data of the current records. Then we ask the user, then we show the user this form, and there is some emulation of business logic code. Then we are using the stored procedure component to charge the values for stored procedure parameters, and at least when the procedure is charged, we execute and then reload the data. In more obvious form, it looks like the thick client contains main form with code, update form, and data module. All these functions against the database, which stores the data and stored procedure. We can distinguish two types of communication between the application and the server: select for retrieving data and firing the stored procedure to update. How do we split the thick client? We'll take the same application, then grab the data module and place it in the application server, which will be a new project. We'll make a new DataSnap server and use the data module source in it. Then we will reswitch our old thick client to work using DataSnap application server, not data module inside, thus converting it into thin multi-tier DataSnap client. It's easy. Just take your project group and add new project, select DataSnap server, and then formally select some options. It's a test project, so let me leave it as it is. And now you can generate the necessary source code to support the server functionality. Let's consider the automatically generated DataSnap server. We have a main form for the server because it's a VCL application. It's trivial and clear. Then we have a data module in the project structure added as already existing source, data module, similar like in a thick client. Then we have a server container unit where all the necessary communication and protocol responsible components are located. And at last we have a very important server method unit. It's a very important unit because here we will code and already have some test methods, and we can program the functionality of our application server to be called by the thin client. These methods and calling of these methods I call Procedural API. It means that the thin client will, using Delphi or C++ builder, will generate the necessary code to transparently call server methods. What the word transparent means? Transparent means invisible. So when you call some server methods from the client, you have no idea how these calls are executed over the network. You just call them as trivial methods available inside your C++ code. Stored procedure on the DBMS server is called by stored procedure component located on the application server. Application server exposes a method using server method unit. The thin client transparently call the server method. For transport of record sets based on tables or views in the database, we can use a traditional for DataSnap approach, well described since Midas and early days of DataSnap. The chain consists of a dataset provider in the application server, then provider connection and client dataset on the client side. Works well and can be implemented in design time with no lines of code. So, what am I doing? I'm taking the dataset from the data module and then add the dataset provider component and raise or throw it in the direction of the thin client. How does it look like in the code? We have a server method unit, and this is a dataset provider which will automatically expose and send the record set from the dataset towards the thin client. Once again, automatically, without coding. And now we should teach the thin client how to catch the ball, because it's not a baseball, it's a basketball, so the thin client shouldn't beat the ball away, but catch it and hold and expose the record set to the user. So let's look at the situation from the viewpoint of client. The client has exactly the same data module as application servers, just the same units. This is our transitional data module, and we have the dataset provider exposing the data from the server, and on the side of thin client we can connect to the application server and using the provider connection retrieve the data then stored in the client dataset. You can say, what a strange technique, but please wait a little, I will show you. So we have a new button, and this button is used to magically convert a thick client into a thin client. I'll run the application and then click the button. This button will switch the client from the direct connection to the database to the connection to the application server, so converting it from thick to a thin boy. What's the code behind the button? It's easy. First, I disconnect the thin client from the database, and then using SQL connection, I'll reconnect the data source. The data source will change the dataset, and of course the DB grid will feel the difference. You may feel I'm puzzling you. Absolutely not. I'm very honest. Both client and application server have the same data module. It is absolutely the same before I switched the thick client into the thin version. Before the switch, the thick client was connected to the database by itself. It didn't care where the application server was in existence at all. After the switch, the thick client was converted into a thin version. So it was connected to the application server, and application server was up and connected to the database. So it's the same data module, but different parts are used by different applications within the same project group. Thin client project and application server project. You can say, I may be lost when using the same data module for different projects. I'll answer, wait, it's some intermediate version for better understanding that there is no principal difference in client-server and multi-tier DataSnap. Later on, we'll discuss the better arrangement within the project, typical when building projects from scratch. Let's run the thin client application and try to switch to application server, but application server is down, so trying to switch will get an error. Then let me please first run the application server connected to the database And then we'll try again to switch from the direct access to the DBMS server to the connection via application server. So the application server is up and running. Please run such things without debugger. Then we'll see the client, and finally we see thin client connected via application server. The last worry is how to implement update, taking into account the connection via the application server. At the moment we see a version code typical for the client server application. Now we should be a bit more accurate, so after final housekeeping the arrangement looks like this. The thin client has its own client module, like data module, where all the connection components and communication components with the application server are located. So in order to get legally a pair of units like client module and client module classes, you should add to the existing application DataSnap client module. So you'll have these a pair of good modules. You got this and client classes unit, not shown here, to consume the methods exposed by the application server. We'll need a couple of them. How to expose some methods from the application server? You should go to the server method unit and find, for example, reverse string, already ready methods, and add manually your own methods. I'm adding the exec procs methods, accepting the procs name, a name of a stored procedure to trigger, and the list of parameters packed in JSON object, which is typical for the modern DataSnap, and update dataset. This method also will be called to reload the updated record set. So the first method will fire the stored procedure, and the second method will reload the record set. Once you have added your customer methods to the application server to be called by the client, you need to generate the client classes. It will allow you to call the methods transparently without any special means. But first, please run the application server, a small memo component added for debug functions. Then you go to the C client, and with the running server you can click right button and generate DataSnap classes. The classes will be generated automatically. Excuse me, the project is still named thick, however it's almost thin. Please don't try to generate the client classes without a running server. You will get the exception from the IDE. In our case, it's builder, C++ builder. Then first you run the server. Then you should go to the client, just generate client classes, and you'll have the necessary header file. You also get a CPP file with implementations, which is not implementation of the method, but transparent call of the server method. Only a pair of clicks. On the client side, you can see the exact signature of the methods exposed by the server, and you can freely call them when you like. Please note the methods are scalable. Why scalable? Both on the server side and on the client side, the methods are insensitive, so they don't accept the reference to some specific components, just names and lists of parameters. So you can implement the similar method for real-scale, real-life projects. This general approach is very important. For example, in a real-life project with hundreds of tables and hundreds of stored procedure, you can expose every method for every stored procedure. And I do know guys who did this. They just count all the stored procedures. Then they, of course, in the data module of the application server, you have the specific components, stored procedures for that. Then they wrap them in the exposed server methods, and then they call the methods anytime they want to update some table in the database or insert some record. Yes, I'm a fanatic of DataSnap, but not so far. I am definitely not a fanatic of hard or dull work. So we have an exec procs primarily on the server side, and then automatically generated signature, but not only the signature, but the calling mechanism on the client side. So we can call just any stored procedure by name and by the list of parameters. The question is how to pass parameters from the client to the server, taking into account the minimization of the source code. The storage procedure name is trivial, so let's look at the list of parameters. In order to pass the list of parameters, I'm using the JSON object, which is based on JSON notation. Not everything can be passed via JSON object, but it's quite enough for us. So then we need to somehow match the named parameters, because the JSON pair is a composition of the name and the value. So the a parameter in the stored procedure also is a name and a value. So we are running through the stored procedure, find the stored procedure, and if the name of a current stored procedure match the name passed to the methods, we can then run through the parameters through the JSON pairs, and if the name of the JSON pair match the name of the parameter in the stored procedure, we can assign. The parameters are charged and we can run the procedure. On the client side, there is also some interesting thing. Here you can see practically unchanged the code which charged the stored procedure component with the values of its parameters. It's just the same component for stored procedure, but the fact is that that particular component on the client side isn't connected to the database. It just accepts the parameters value and then is used for packing the parameters and then running the method on the server. So we are using only the procedure name. So we have just the same and scalable code as we had already for the client. And there the code is also trivial and universal. Just one loop for running through the list of parameters, create JSON pair per every parameter, and add the pair to the JSON object. So on the client side we need just one loop to pack the parameters, then using the basic and transparent transport for DataSnap, we can send the JSON object to the application server, and two loops to unpack and match the parameter name to the name of the JSON pair. Would you like to see how the list of parameters is represented with JSON? I especially added a memo on the server form and a code to show. So we have running client, running server, and can switch the thick client to the thin mode, and try to change some values, and finally see how the list of parameters is represented. JSON object to represent the list of parameters looks like It's absolutely human readable, and you can use it not only to pass values to the application server and back, but for serializing your objects. If you want to be rather strong in JSON with Delphi and with C++ Builder, it's easy to convert the code mentally. I can recommend you the article by Pavel Glavatsky, my friend and Delphi lead on the same code base, and the link is presented, and the post by Daniel Teti about JSON marshalling and unmarshalling. The last is very useful if you want to pass the whole packed objects. It's very useful for smooth migration from client server to multi-tier to send just the packed object. I'd rather ask you to remember the names and the word JSON and then Google, because reading links from the screen is not very effective. Let me summarize. There are obvious advantages of multi-tier over client server. More discussion in my session at CodeRage 7 for Delphi. Available in replay. These advantages can be achieved if we are using a good technology. Transparent calls, simple transport, different deployment, simplicity, ready components available, filters, callbacks, and what I consider as the same way of using within RED tools, C++ Builder or Delphi. DataSnap is ready. The migration means generally your readiness to try something new, comparing to classical client server like dataset, data source, dbgrid, sometimes with BDE. There are some ways to execute migration. The ideal case is a brand new project, originally based on DataSnap ideology. Dataset, dataset provider, provider connection, client dataset. You can first try this chain within a solid project, which can then easily be split into two applications. In this case, you'll need to change your code style comparing to client server and the way of using the components. But DataSnap as a new framework. You can also migrate slowly, like we have been doing right now. First, change the data sets to client data sets using providers. At the second stage, you'll be able to call some stored procedures using generalized and universal calling method. During this stage, your thick client is partially thin, and your users can continue to use it as they do before. You can even remain your thick client as it is, gradually making a new thin client on its code base, and then use the thick client as application server. Or you can forget the data stream chain in DataSnap, like dataset, dataset provider, provider connection, client dataset, and expose and call just methods. In this case, you'll get the full control over what is called, what is passed, and what is returned. Yes, you will be able to return record sets as a return value of the server methods. See Bob Swartz's white paper published on our site. Slow migration is good, but once migrated to multi-tier, you can then follow the classical concepts. Client data set on client side. You'll use the direct insert, update, delete methods, then applying updates. In this case, you'll pass only deltas to the application server, which can also perform the reconcile routines. If changes are successfully propagated to the application server and then to the database, no reload needed. In normal situation of no business logic violation, it's one-way trip, so no extra traffic. Client data set allows you easily implement briefcase model. Rarely updated data or dictionary tables can be stored locally. No extra traffic. So, a number of ways to migrate, a number of advantages, a number of sources of information. C++ Builder guys, it works. Delphi guys, it works the same way. Okay, now it's time for Q&A session.
Would it be possible to implement within C++? I'm guessing that's what you were showing. I'm not sure what Roland's question was regarding at 6:15. Maybe he can qualify that question a little bit more. The next question is send objects using C++ from server to client like the T-person without marshalling and unmarshalling?
I'm not just packing the whole object. I'm just packing the list of parameters in the stored procedure. But in case if you want to be ready for massive migration, it's good to use a marshalling method and pack the stored procedure itself. So you're taking stored procedure and implement marshalling and unmarshalling, like described in Daniel Teti post, and you can just you can just send the stored procedure to the server side, and this application server will unpack or maybe recreate the stored procedure, extract the packed parameters and necessary features, and run it. So it's just the first simple way, but of course the total packing with marshalling and unmarshalling, it's more progressive technique.
And a question about the webinars available later for download. Yes, they will be available for download probably about this time next week is what I would imagine. Here's a general question that maybe you can answer with respect to DataSnap. What is needed to upgrade a Win32 project to a Win64 project?
Could you please
if you have for instance, if you have an existing DataSnap Win32 client, or a Win32 DataSnap server in C++, what's required to convert that to a 64-bit DataSnap server?
I don't see some DataSnap specific problems because, yes, it's a good question. Maybe I need just to test. At the moment, I can say for sure that you can make the application server with a C++ builder and client with Delphi. It's okay, it works fine. So no contradiction. So I hope that you can have a 32 client or server and 64 or 32 client, and they can communicate because there's no shared memory between client and server, and only communication protocol. At the moment, I can't see some issues when migrating for DataSnap either on client side or on server side from 32 to 64, but yes, we need to test, and it's a good question. I'll test and publish some results in my blog.
Okay, cool, great.
Yeah.
Can C++ DataSnap servers run on other operating systems besides Windows and Windows Server?
Well, I think it's a question to JT, maybe not. Well, maybe for you, Anders, not. It's some kind of roadmap question.
Yeah, at this point, we're the DataSnap servers, even Delphi, are just running on Windows. Getting them to run on Macintosh, for instance, is something that is on the roadmap that we're looking into.
Yes, but the small addition that the thin client, I can say for sure, is easily to deploy from Windows to Macintosh. It's one click using the deployment manager as a service in IDE.
Yeah, the clients can absolutely run on.
Yes,
Macintosh.
And so my example, I'm using the MS SQL server specially to show how to use this connection and migrate the application against MS SQL server for macOS. It's to split, and thin client is portable, and I can say that. Yes, there are a lot of options. It's a good way maybe to split first and try to make multi-platform thin client first, taking into account the mobile solution in future.
Yep. And I think we already answered the question regarding can I build 32 and 64-bit C++ DataSnap snap servers, and the answer is yes. If you are going to connect to 64-bit Oracle, is 64-bit DataSnap server needed, or will a 32-bit server work too?
I guess if you want to connect to, it's a question about Oracle, because I don't think that as to interface, if you have, because interface is our DBMS, and I can say for sure that if you have you can run 64 server on a 64-bit machine. You can have a 32 client with a 32 client application with using 32 interbase client. They can easily communicate with 64 server. So if over the network the architecture of the platform doesn't play some role, so you can have clients 32 and client library 32, and over network you can connect to 64-bit server. But it's about interface. But I don't know about Oracle, but I do feel that the same is valid for Oracle. But need to yes. Mm-hmm.
The same is actually true for Oracle as well. If you have a 32-bit machine, you can just install the 32-bit version of their client-side library and talk to it. It doesn't matter what the bitness of the server, database server doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Let's see. Is it possible to have two client apps, one over VCL and one over intraweb, both of them working over the same server app using DataSnap? Multiple clients for a DataSnap server is basically what the question is asking.
Multiple clients on the same machine for one server. Yes.
No, it's more general. It's asking about two clients. It doesn't specify on the same machine, but you can have multiple clients of any kind connecting to a DataSnap server. There's no problem with that. It can be VCL, FireMonkey, intraweb, JavaScript, HTML5, whatever you want, connecting to a DataSnap server, mobile clients, etc. They can all work at the same time. Not a problem whatsoever. Can I connect DataSnap server with Postgres SQL? We don't have a Postgres driver, I believe, but you can certainly connect to a Postgres database using an OWC driver or otherwise.
Third parties, yes.
Yeah, third-party drivers as well. Third-party DB Express drivers as well. Do you favor building one large DataSnap server with several server methods and server classes, or should I split my DataSnap server into multiple DataSnap servers?
It's a question of scalability. I feel that the question is just the same as how many data modules are good for your project. It depends on, I can say, some limit factor is your screen. So if you can see all your data sets in one data module, it's okay, and you can continue using one big data module. But if not, it's good, not for the reason of the project architecture, but for you as a developer, it's easy to see all at once. So I guess this is the key factor and not some technological issues.
All right. So if there are any more questions, feel free to put them in right now. Anything you want to add, Seva, at this point?
Yes, during the session, I have forgotten to test the C++ builder client against Delphi application server, and during the session, I made some. I've been making some tests, so I can say that. Delphi client with C++ builder application server, where this combination works fine, and you can run your application C++ builder server and then generate client classes in Delphi and see all the exposed server methods, but written not in C++ but in Delphi. So you can use Delphi or C++ builder or Delphi and C++ builder to split responsibilities or to mix code, and it works fine.
Can you make your maybe slides and source code available on your blog or something like that? That'd be great.
Yes, I'll do, but of course I need some final brushing. I'm not sure at the moment how clean my JSON packing code looks like. It's scalable and it doesn't depend on a particular component, but I need final brushing, and of course I'll publish.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Seva, for that presentation.
Yes, thank you.